Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Align People, Strategy, and Results. First of all, thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Sajin. I'm the Director of Marketing of Synergita. Today, I want to introduce my colleague and VP of Products, Mr. Prabhakar Maimuthu. In this role, he leads product strategy, oversees engineering, design, and implementation, and helps Synergita to become the preferred employee performance management and engagement software for companies of all size, from innovative startups to large enterprises. Let's please welcome Prabhakar to this session. Proceed, Prabhakar.
Thank you, Sajin. Great to be here. Thank you for all of thanks to all of you joining joining this session. Great to be here. Let me start. Let me start with a study which shows that on an average, 67% of the companies fall short in achieving their strategic goals. According to Stephen Covey, the author of the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, superb execution is much more important than having a killer strategy. So that's the importance of having a good execution skills in any organization. Before I get into the session, let me conduct a couple of polls which will allow me to understand the sense of the audience for this session today. Thank you for your responses. Thank you so much. So, Sajin, let's get into the session. See, like we all see that most businesses define their strategic goals ahead of the year, and in fact, the leadership teams and the other stakeholders do lot of discussions, and they do the annual planning meeting. Organizations do define the organization goals, and the goals are distributed across several departments, teams, and so on. And the stakeholders also agree to the plan as such. And finally, the CEO presents the business plan to all the employees with a lot of excitement in a town hall meeting. But with each day passing, the strategy goals become less important, and the strategy goals are no more linked or aligned with the day-to-day activities of the employees. So why is it so difficult? Why is strategy execution so difficult? Is it people, process? So let's find out. These are the common reasons why the strategy execution fails. These are the common challenges, right? And the challenges range from poor goal setting to lack of measurements, leading indicators, and so on. Lack of alignment is one of the major reasons why organizations are struggling and not able to meet their organization strategic goals. That's one of the reason, and somehow the employees' work gets misaligned from the organizational goals. It is first of all look at the significance of alignment and how the aligned companies significantly outperform their peers. The researchers show that this research was conducted with 14 companies across 8 industries. And according to this research, highly aligned companies grow revenue faster than their peers. In fact, they grow at a rate of 58% faster, and they are also more profitable. They are 72% more profitable than the unaligned peers. In terms of several elements, the aligned organizations are able to retain their customers 2.23 times better than their peers, and they also keep their customers delighted, and they are able to effectively learn and also engage employees more. All right. So, like what makes the difference? A few organizations are able to make it happen, and a few other organizations are not able to make it. Here is a 3x organizational alignment model, which helps us in bringing in alignment of organizational goals with other elements in the organization. In aligned organizations, the employees have very clear understanding about the strategic goals of the organization, and this accounts to 31% of the difference, right? And in highly aligned companies and in companies where you can find out high performance culture, the employees come forward and then take the responsibility and deliver what it takes to achieve the organizational goals, and this accounts to 40% of the difference. Differentiated talent accounts for 29% of the difference. Typically, it is a belief that the talent pool in an organization makes a competitive edge for most of the organizations, and employees also actually see how the company is able to attract good talent and nurture them and retain the good talent in the organization. So it is very critical for an organization's success to bring the strategic goal, culture, and people aligned to each other. So, what is a people strategy? Most companies have HR strategy. HR strategy is all about how to hire, onboard employees, and how to appraise them, compensate them, and so on. People strategy is all about how do you actually allow the employees to carry out their roles and responsibilities in such a manner that they can make more sense to the organization, and basically a people strategy allows you to nurture and assess your employee capabilities and then contribute to people development, basically develop the workforce to deliver the organization goals. And it also outlines how to manage the relationship between employees and the managers, how the interactions are happening between the employees and managers, and what is the relationship between the employees and the organization. People strategy focuses on basically it like focuses on what sort of individuals are needed for the organization, and once they onboard into the organization, what sort of development training needed and get them ready to work on the organization related activities, basically like what it takes to achieve the organization goals. So how do you build a proper people strategy? It all starts with the vision. Vision is the North Star for any organization, and vision is basically the purpose as well, right? Why the company is planning to accomplish something, right? So it all starts with a solid vision statement, and then you have to identify, do the organization capability assessment and workforce assessment, and find out all the gaps. You may have to hire new talent, and you may have to get the existing workforce to take the new responsibilities, acquire new skills, what it takes to accomplish the organization goals. Once you have a draft version of the people strategy, you can involve the other stakeholders in the organization. You can bring all of them into the process so that you give a feel that it's a collective affair and it is not one or two individuals define the people strategy. And this will create a lot of excitement within the organization, bring in a lot of inclusiveness, and it will also allow you to get feedback for your people strategy. Once you bring the people strategy to good shape, it's time to communicate it across the organization. So basically you have to have the entire workforce understand how you visualize the people strategy, and you have to bring the entire workforce up to speed. You have to encourage people ask the questions and do large scale gatherings across the organization and activate the entire workforce to align with the people strategy. And then finally, people strategy is not a fixed document, right? So it keeps changing, and it's a live document. So you have to iterate it until you get it proper. Here are the three pillars of people strategy. So basically, you have to focus on three aspects: the leadership and culture. So the leadership and culture, the leadership team as such is very, very critical for the success of the organization. They bring in the trust and the confidence among the employees, and they become the source of inspiration for all the workforce across the organization. And they also take the responsibility to communicate the vision of the organization, the set of organizational goals and what organization is planning to accomplish, and so on. So they bring in the entire workforce to work towards accomplishing the organization goals. And talent and skills are also equally important. You need people to execute your plans. So you need to do a detailed talent assessment within the organization and figure out what sort of talent needs to be hired newly, and what sort of people development programs are needed to bring the additional skills the employees need to acquire to fulfill the organization goals, right? And like last but not the least, you need to have a very good HR organization with with the required skills to manage the workforce, and it is preferable to have T-shaped professionals in your HR organization. The HR basically acts as a bridge between the leadership team and the employees, and HR should have the skills to understand the organization goals, and like what are the new set of goals the organization has picked up for the coming year, and then how do we get the workforce ready to work on those new areas. So now we will see how to align the workforce strategy with the business objectives, right? So it's a like a pretty comprehensive exercise which each organization needs to do. You have to do a workforce planning exercise all together. Basically, you have to check what the organization is planning to accomplish in the coming year, and what are the strategic goals defined, and how these goals are different from the previous years, and what are the new areas where the organization is planning to focus in the coming year, and and then identify all the gaps and then come up with action items to fulfill the gaps. This is basically getting the workforce ready to work on the strategy which is in place. And then the organizational capability assessment will help you to understand how well the organization is equipped to attract good talent. You have to have effective and um, very, very effective and very good I mean the strategies to attract good talent, top talent to your organization. The leadership team will play a very critical role in terms of motivating the employees across the organization, and keep them always at a high morale, talk about the future of the organization and what it takes for each individual to work on the organization goals and then what the organization is trying to accomplish. So this transparency will certainly give a lot of motivation to your workforce, and the organization should also have very clear strategies to retain the top talent. A good organizational development and structure will ensure that you put the right set of people to work on right set of activities. This is also very, very critical to the success of the organization altogether. You have to have a sense of the distributed workforce across the teams, and you should have the ability to define a very clear set of roles and responsibilities within the organization. In fact, when you put together the people strategy, you will also define the competencies required for each role and the roles which are needed to fulfill the organization objectives, and that is also part of the people strategy development activity as such. And once you do it, you will be in a very good position to put the best people to work on each activity which is directly aligned with the organization strategic goals, right? And all your diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies should be aligned towards bringing in the entire workforce together and develop the inclusive culture within the organization. The organization needs to be as transparent as possible. You have to communicate about your organization goals and why is also very important. Why the organization is picking up a specific goal for this year and what is going to be the outcome. You have to be very, very transparent and upfront about it, and that is going to bring a good sense across the organization and also bring a inclusive culture. You can ensure that all the stakeholders and the workforce are also part of all the important decision making. What is the performance management system? It's a simple process. Performance management is a very, very simple process, and it is an effective tool to communicate the organization goals and objectives across the board. It is a platform which where you very clearly list down the organization level strategic goals and what each department has to accomplish, which can drill down into the individual goals across the organization. And you can also ensure that the department goals and the individual goals are aligned as much as possible with the organization goals. And you can actually look for systems which will help you to measure the alignment and ensure that the entire workforce is aligned towards the organization goals, right? This is very, very critical to accomplishing all the organizational level goals. And a good performance management system also brings in a lot of accountability. Each individual will have clear expectations set during the beginning of the year, and they know exactly where to focus on and the competencies and the skills which are required to work on the goals for the given year. And they also know what others are planning to work on, what other departments are going to work on and what other individuals are going to work on. And when the individual sees the goals alignment towards upwards, which is going to link the individual goal with the organization goal, they understand, they get the sense of accomplishment, and they actually have visibility about the larger goal they are contributing to. And that is going to bring in a lot of engagement as well as accountability into each individual. And the performance management system will also allow you to measure how you are progressing and where are the gaps and the individuals who needs to do course corrections and move on. And then a performance management system, it's not just a system where you go and define what you want to accomplish, right? It also allows you to evaluate each individual and also find out the progress at varied levels, individual level, department level, and at the organization level. And at the organization level, you will see the cumulative progress. Some of the organization goals may be very complicated in nature, right? You will require contribution from multiple business units and also from different teams across the organization. So a performance management system will help you to set the expectations clearly across the board, and it will also help you to measure the progress and also get the cumulative progress at the organization level. When you start putting together a performance management system for your organization, you can also have a very good set of clear set of objectives defined upfront. Right. Basically, you can set up your system in such a way to leverage the entire workforce across the board to work for the complex goals of the organization. You can ensure the kind of you can sort out, find out all the dependencies, what sort of commitments are required from each team inside the organization, and create that alignment and allow the entire workforce to work towards the goals of the organization. And each person, each individual will have like a lot of a role clarity in terms of the kind of role they are playing in the organization, within the team, and what sort of targets which they have to meet, and the set of activities which they have to carry forward, and so on. Yeah, having a performance management system allows you to create a high performance work culture, right? So this system should bring in a lot of transparency, and as a individual, I should be able to see how the other teams are doing and how am I doing, and knowing that another team is doing very well will only spread the positive vibration across the organization, and put the peer pressure and make the other teams as well deliver more. Uh, and you should also like aim at developing employees systematically. Once you set up the expectation, once you start tracking, you start figuring out how the employees are progressing, and then it gives you opportunity to systematically find out where the employees are doing well, where the employees are lacking, and come up with a comprehensive training and development plans. You should also aim at having bringing in managers and employees together in this process. And most of the performance management systems encourage a continuous conversations, and that helps in increasing the good relationship between managers and employees, and that is also a critical point for the success of the organizations. And you should actually focus on the process a lot, not on the format of the system as such. The suggestion is to have a consistent process across the organization so that all the employees have the same understanding about how the goals are defined, tracked, and then finally assessed. Right. So the focus should be on the process and not with respect to the format of the performance management system as such, and what sort of targets you are setting. You should also aim at having avenue to appreciate good performance inside the organization. Um, like appreciation increases the engagement, and it also motivates the workforce to deliver more to the organization. You can define a very good rewards and recognition program inside the organization, and at various you have to enable recognitions to happen at various levels, at the organization level, team level, and at the individual level. Studies show that the organizations which have enabled peer appreciations could increase the employee engagement to good extent. Uh, when peers start appreciating each other, it actually creates a fantastic culture inside the organization. Now we can look at how you can align the people strategy with the performance management system, right? you can bring this alignment by keeping an eye on all the three critical elements of people strategy, which is leadership and culture, employee engagement, learning and development. A good performance management system um, should produce a new leadership within the organization and also create a good culture within the organization. And this system should bring in the needed transparency across the organization and also allow the employees to recognize the good work which is happening across the board, and also bring a sense of accountability and how I'm contributing to the larger goal of the organization. The learning and development is, one area where a lot of organizations are lacking. Right? We all get the workforce and ask them to get the work done, which is not sufficient. Successful organizations have like a very strong learning and development programs enabled inside the organization, and this team must always focus towards um, how they can come up with a different set of programs which can develop the employees across the board. A good performance management system will allow you to figure out the um, needs from a learning and development department, right? So when employees work closely with their managers, they also understand the areas where they need to improve, and a good performance management system will allow you to find out the training needs of the individuals. Right. So there is a LinkedIn study which talks about the how the employees expect the organizations to train them. Right. Uh, this study shows that when you actually train the employees, they stay with the organization more. Right. They 73% of the employees remain with the same employer when the organization provides sufficient education and learning opportunities within the organization. Here are the three uh, components of a performance management system. So basically, the system what you put should deliver value, execution excellence, and you should be able to know what sort of investment the organization needs to make on the workforce for people development. Right. It's a detailed study conducted by the University of Chicago. So under value, you can focus on bringing in the strategic vision within the organization, bring in the inclusive culture, and ensure that you have a diversified workforce within the organization, and that sets a good platform. Um, to define your people strategy, and that will also help you to execute your strategies at different levels, right? And you can also increase your execution excellence. The performance management system will provide you with a lot of data points and insights, which is going to help you to make your business decisions, and it will also allow you to communicate what the organization is going to accomplish, and what are the short-term and long-term plans of the organization across the board. And basically it will help you to execute your strategies across the board, and it will bring together the entire workforce to execute your strategy. And last but not the least, people development. So you should focus to bring in the required resilience and emotional intelligence within your workforce, and you should be able to find out your top performing talent and who needs to be taken care and retained for a long term, and come up with the initiatives which is going to um, like motivate the individuals and increase the employee engagement across the board. So basically, a vision is the purpose, and strategy is how you can get to the purpose. All right. So that's the simple way to define the vision of the organization and the strategies, right? The vision as such doesn't change a lot, but the strategies and organization structures do change. Like some time back, during the initial days, Facebook used to have a different culture as such, right? Move faster and break things. And then once they become large, and once they started taking complex goals, they have changed their culture to move faster with a stable infrastructure. So that way you have to keep changing your business strategy, and when the strategy keeps changing, how do you uh, ensure that the alignment is still intact? Here is a simple way to test your company's strategic alignment. You have to answer this two simple questions. How well does your business strategy support the fulfillment of your company's purpose? And how well does your organization support the achievement of your business success? Once you have the responses, you can fill your responses in this matrix, and here you can see the insights coming out very clearly. The organizations which you have the strategy aligned with the long-term purpose of the organization, and also the strategy aligned with the organization capabilities. Those organizations have the best chance of uh, getting the competitive edge in the market, and they have the best chance of winning and accomplishing their organization goals. The organizations which have a good execution capability, but not so good strategy, the strategy which is not aligned very well with the long-term purpose of the organization, they can accomplish a lot, but they'll not be able to get to their organizational goals as such. And the organizations which have good alignment of strategy with the long term purpose, but but incapable of executing the strategy, will not be able to accomplish the organization goals. And the companies which are not doing so well in both the scales are set up for a crisis. If not immediately, maybe in long term, they'll not be able to accomplish the organization goals. Here are a couple of tips when you do the goal setting for your workforce. You obviously have to keep an eye on the results to be accomplished, and the results which are directly aligned with the company level goals and the department level goals. And you should also see how you can tap the unleash the full capability of your workforce, right? So you have to have a good knowledge of the competency and the skills of your team members, and ensure that you give opportunities to them to demonstrate all their skills and competencies. And you have to bring a balance between the results to be achieved and the competencies which individuals can demonstrate. Here are some of the best practices while defining the objectives for the organization, and at all levels as well. You can focus on setting very specific objectives. Objective can be a qualitative statement, or it could be a quantitative statement, but it should clearly communicate what needs to be accomplished, and it should be a very crisp and specific statement. You can also define um, how the achievements will be measured upfront. This is one of the common pitfalls which become a conflict between the employee and the manager, employee and the organization at a very later point in time. So when you set the targets for each goal, you can also define the mechanism to measure the accomplishments. There could be like a lot of complex metrics which may come from multiple ERP systems and CRM systems and so on. It's always helpful to set how do you measure the accomplishment upfront when you set the objectives for the employees. And And like one of the characteristics of successful organizations is to set achievable goals. Um, any organization should at least accomplish 60 to 70 percentage of the goals, which is going to give a very good feel for the employees as well as for the leadership teams. And this is going to create a lot of motivation to take up the next set of goals. So you have to always ensure that you don't like overdo on the objectives setting, and you have to ensure that the goals are also like very much relevant to the individual as well as the organization, and mostly ensure that the goals are aligned with the goals of the respective managers, team, and the organization. Right. And then finally, it's always suggested to put a definite timeline for the accomplishment of each goal, which is going to make it more interesting for the individual as well as for the organization to track how organization is doing on the goals as such, and how the organization is progressing, and how what is the probability of accomplishing the goals by at the end of the given period and all of that. When organizations focus on the strategic goals and alignment, and bring the workforce together, the employees look for very good visibility of their career path in the performance management system, right? So each employee will be looking at how do I grow along with the organization, and then what is the next for me. This is where this is where the organizations should also assess the employees for the future role or for the next role for each employee. You should be able to clearly um, tell the employees that, hey, like you have done well in these areas, and these are a couple of areas where you should focus to become better in your current role, and to move to the next role you have to acquire these new skills. So these sort of discussions and a very clear career path will ensure that the employees are motivated towards delivering more, and they also get a sense of growing along with the organization. Giving a feel to the employees that the organization is equipping them with the required education and the learning gives a good feel to the workforce always. And this is where the organizations should focus on bringing in a tangible and specific learning and development plan for each employee. Every employee is different, and you have to consider their experience levels and how they presently do, and then put together a very good learning and development programs in place, and ensure that the employees grow in the organization. Here is a quick view of how the performance management systems evolve. Here, by PMS, I refer to performance management system. In the traditional system, it used to be just doing the goal setting, and you do at least a couple of reviews, right? One review during mid-year, and then one review during end of year. And in fact, most organizations do only one review every year, which was not sufficient, right? So basically, when you provide feedback to the employees by end of year, it's too late for both organization and the employees. Had the managers provide the feedback then and there, the employees would have done the course correction and delivered more to the organization. And this is where the modern PMS systems are focusing more around agility, and then how do we increase the conversations during the course of the year. It is actually not just doing the performance reviews multiple times in an year actually. If the organizations prefer to do the formal HR driven annual appraisal reviews, they can do it maybe once in a year, but a good PMS system should allow the organizations to do the check-ins more frequently, like as frequently as a daily and week on a weekly basis, and the employee should have an opportunity to talk about how they are feeling and how they are doing with respect to accomplishing their goals, and what sort of support they need from the organization as well as uh, from other teams inside the organization. So this new modern PMS focus towards doing a lot of formal and informal conversations across the employees, between employee and managers, and it brings out the fact and shortcomings, like at any point in time. Basically, as soon as something happens, we are able to have this conversation with the employee and then sort out the challenges then and there, and enable the employees to focus on delivering what they are intended to do so in the organization. And you can define the frequency of such conversations according to the nature of the goals what you set for the team members. The team goals can be reviewed more frequently, while management goals can be reviewed maybe on a daily, weekly basis, and all the operations goals are worth to be reviewed on a monthly and quarterly basis, right? So you can define the frequency according to the culture of your organization, and how well your managers are equipped to have these discussions with the individuals, right? One of the areas where the organizations need to focus is to train the managers to provide do such conversations, do such productive conversations with the team members, which is going to give a lot of positive feel to the employee and motivate them to deliver more. Here are some of the effective feedback methods which are suggested and part of the modern PMS, right? Uh, so when new joiners come on board, they come up with a lot of expectations, right? And and a lot of organizations do not have any idea about how the new joiners feel, and this is where the new employee surveys are coming handy. Now the trend in the performance management space is to do the 30 days review, 60 days review, and 90 days reviews for the new joiners who come on board. This kind of gives a sense of how the employee felt with respect to the onboarding process, and how the organization orientation sessions happened, and the services training, product training, and so on. And it also allows the organizations to identify any lapses at a very early stage and then address. And it also provides a platform for the new joiner to express themselves, and sort of come forward and ask for the support needed, and also provide feedback to the organization, which can make it better for the other new joiners who join the organization. Employee engagement surveys gives a almost a real-time sense of employee pulse across the organization. A good employee engagement survey will find out the problematic areas where the employees are having concerns across the board, right? So you can find out how effectively all your functional organizations are able to take care of your employees, and how employee perceive the organization, and they may be having like a lot of inputs to all these teams, and these tools will help you to understand the real time fluctuation of employee moods as well, right? Employee engagement score is not stable throughout the year. Like as and when something happens, the employee mood changes and the score gets reduced. And these surveys help you to find out those employees who need nurturing and who need sort of help, either from your HR team or from your training team, facilities team, and so on. Obviously, employer review sites provide avenue for the present workforce as well as the ex-employees to provide inputs to the organization. They basically, share the experience, what they have gone through, what they are going through, and suggestions to make it better for the employees. Upwards assessment is another new trend which we are seeing in the performance management space. Typically, we focus on providing feedback to the team members, right? So in some organizations make it 360-degree. They get feedback from all peers, customers, and so on. The upwards assessment is all about how the manager can hear from the team members, right? Um, Typically, managers, focus on how they can accomplish their goals and how they can be good to their managers. A lot of times they don't know how their team members feel about the manager, and how do they manage the team as such, and what sort of improvements they can bring into their people management practices. So each team member gets an opportunity to assess their manager and provide inputs, and uh, and some of these methods are not HR driven as well, right? For example, upwards assessment will go as a direct developmental input to the manager, and the HR team will not use it while assessing, doing the performance assessment for the managers as well. And that sort of gives the freedom to the team members to express themselves, and allows the managers to keep this feedback confidential and work on the inputs. When it comes to Gen Z, it's a different ball game, and you should know the expectations from this employee population in your organization. So basically, they have a very short attention span, and they feel that less is more, right? So you have to ensure that you set the expectations crisply, right? So you have to make it as a very clear statement, and very set very clear set of expectations, though then they succeed. And a lot of times Gen Z population prefer group communication. Basically, they communicate a lot in social media kind of platforms, even within the organization, instead of one-on-one conversation. So this creates a lot of buzz across the organization, and creates a lot of communication which they love. The Gen Z population also want a lot of freedom, and they want to like sort of try out different ways to accomplish the organization goals, right? They don't want to be micromanaged, and a lot of supervision and feedback as such. They look up to the manager only to take a few inputs, and they prefer to learn and deliver rather than micromanaged by the managers. Here is one LinkedIn study again, which very clearly indicates that the Gen Z population wants training, right? So they don't need help or support from others, and they want to learn and do things. So the organization should enable good learning and development team inside the organization, which focuses on bringing in a lot of innovative programs, and creates a lot of opportunities for the Gen Z population to learn and to be trained on specific stuff. When you design a good performance management system, you can ensure that the system communicates the expectations across the board, and it sets the clear expectation very clearly, and also allows the managers to work on development plans for all their team members, and develop the workforce. It's not just a professional development. Employees do focus on personal development. So organization should certainly help them to develop on the personal front as well. And your PMS system should focus on reducing the communication gaps across the departments, right? And this is where transparency is very, very important, and the moment you ensure that the PMS takes care of the communication, it saves a lot of time for the leadership teams on the communication front, and it also avoids any conflicting situations at a later point in time. And then finally, the PMS also helps you to evaluate how the employees have done through the year, and a good system should ensure that you get to know the good talent across the organization, and the good work happened during the past review period in the organization, and the leadership teams and the management teams should get a very clear insights about the teams which are doing not doing so good, and the employees who need help, and also the top talent which needs to be retained in the organization for long term. When you design the performance management system, you should focus on developing T-shaped professionals inside your organizations. We have all heard about the evolution from hiring specialist to generalist, right? Typically, a I-shaped professional is very good and have an in-depth knowledge on one stream, while a T-shaped professional is having depth in one stream, but have a good knowledge across multiple other streams, right? So the T-shaped professionals give a lot of flexibility to the organization in terms of deploying them on various areas, and it increases the cross-functional contribution inside the organization. So when you put together the competency matrix for each role, you can encourage people to contribute to the other functions in the organization, and they also focus to acquire new skills which will enable them to become a T-shaped professionals. What are the differences between performance management and performance appraisal, basically, right? A performance appraisal is it's just a framework, and typically it's very rigid in nature, and it only helps you to define the goals, track the goals, and then finally assess the employees, right? And it doesn't change during the course of the year. While a performance management process allows you to focus on people development, and you allow motivate people to develop on their own, and increase their capability to contribute to the organization objectives. And a performance management process is always a flexible process, and it comes with a lot of agility, and it can change as your strategy changes and as the organization's vision changes, right? It's a very flexible system, and it allows you to find out and assess the talent and retain the top talent in your organization. And finally, here are some of the common pitfalls when you set the objectives at all the levels in your organization. So you end up some organizations they end up setting too many goals, right? Like out of curiosity, they end up setting too many goals, which doesn't allow the employees to focus on the most important goals, right? So it's always better to figure out those two to five areas where the organization needs to focus to accomplish the organizational strategic goals, which will allow the employees to focus on those fewer areas, and then uh, deliver. Basically, they'll have like a better chance to deliver the expectations. And any ambiguity on the accountability setting will also like derail the entire organization. The expectation setting should ensure that who is going to accomplish what, and give a good sense to each employee on what is expected from each one of them, and what are they accountable for. And uh, and and the training to managers is something which organizations miss to take care when they create a performance management system. So you have to ensure that your managers are equipped with the required skills to manage people and also mentor the team members, right? So they have to be trained about how to give feedback and how to give constructive feedback always. a lot of managers do a good job appreciating employees, but they have no clue about how to communicate the areas of improvements to the team members, and this is where they need a lot of training from the organization, how to come up with a sandwich model to communicate the feedback to the employees in a constructive way. And and finally, I want to present this case study and give you the real sense of like what a good people strategy, business strategy, and when you bring together all the aspects of your organization together, how the magic happens. This is a case study. From an ITES company which is based out in the UK, and it's a business process management organization with more than 12,000 employees across the board, right? So prior to deploying performance management platform, they had multiple challenges and pain points. It's a business processing company, and they allow they deliver variety of services to their customers, right? And and that actually created a lot of challenges with their ability to manage the performance inside the organization. There are a lot of misalignments, and the HR lacked visibility, and the employees were less engaged, and the attrition was very high. And the organization, the leadership team decided to go ahead with performance management system, and this came in as a thought during a town hall meeting, and they had still a lot of challenges in terms of introducing a new system as well, because each process, each team had different metrics, and they were tied with a variety of processes as such. Once they bring in the performance management system, which allowed them to define the team specific goals or project specific goals, which are tied with the customer expectations, they started delivering better, right? And they also could bring in the alignment with the organization goals, and also they could increase communication within the organization. Prior to getting a system, the managers were providing feedback to the employees, and they don't hear back from the employees. Now, after the deployment of a PMS system, it has become a two-way conversation, and the employees also have their say, and that allowed the organization to see a 40% increase in employee engagement, and also they ensured that the 90% of the employee goals are tied with the organization goals, which allowed them to increase the probability of accomplishing all their organization goals, right? So that's all I have today. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for joining this session. Maybe Sajin, we can take a few questions from the audience before we wrap up.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhakar. Yeah, we can take a couple of questions. One of the questions that we have received is continuous feedback or quarterly review puts additional stress on the system. How can we avoid that?
This is a great question, right? And this is a great question, and I'm hearing this question more frequently nowadays from our customers as well. It's very true that doing a official HR-driven performance review very frequently puts both the HR team and the project teams into a lot of stress, right? And this is where we are suggesting the organizations to uh, increase the conversations. Basically, bring, instead of having a formal review, encourage a lot of check-ins and one-on-one meetings to happen more frequently between the employee and the manager. It can be like a weekly or a monthly conversation, record the conversation, and basically this conversations will provide inputs to the employees to do more, right? It's not a feedback, not an official feedback which goes to the team members. So the moment you take it up as a conversation rather than as a feedback giving exercise, you can like have more frequent conversation, frequent check-in without getting into stress.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhakar, once again. And we might not be able to answer all the questions that we have received in this session, but look for an email from us and we would try to summarize key takeaways from this blog and publish it to the registrants and attendees. Thank you once again for your time and attention. Look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Have a wonderful day.